Go.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday, so time for another update. So, look, this was an unproductive week for us. It's a really short top 10-ish, only 20 items. We got an awful lot done, especially for a short week, because of Memorial Day. But we did get an awful lot done. So let's start with it. Number one, oh boy, was this one a pain in the ass. Tech Visual Studio 2019. So, like so many developers, we tend to be at least one cycle behind whatever the latest version of Visual Studio is. We had been using 2015, which is more than one cycle. We skipped 17 because why go to 17 when we were going to have to go to 19? And we went to 19. The good news there, hey, we went to 19 and skipped 17. The bad news there, yeah, there were issues. And there are still issues. So the team had to spend far too much time on upgrading, and that is still being worked on, even though we had prepped for it. It's something you have to do. We had to do it at some point. We might as well do it now. So, the good news is that, and you'll see this in the update, is that this is going to help us as we move the gameplay server to the new .NET Core 3 platform, which gets us also closer to moving some of our servers to Linux, which also is good because it will help us reduce the run rate, the spending for the servers. So that's a win for us. Number two, work in progress, tech, particles, and spell effects. So Andrew has been streamlining and improving the tools for scripting and attaching VFX to abilities and statuses. Statuses, sorry. So why are we doing that? Well, for one thing, we had to make sure that Mike wasn't, going to kill Andrew or any of the engineers. We had been promising to get him things, and it took a while. So now Mike is all nice and calm, and we can get the cats back. No, it's all is good. Mike has been great and very patiently waiting for us to do this work, and or for the engineers. I shouldn't say us in that way because it's not like I would touch any of that code. I think if Mike saw me actually going and trying to code for him, violence might ensue. But the good news is better performance, better stuff for Mike to play with and do all the twinkles and sparklies and wonderful things that he has done for every game we've done together. And that's a whole bunch. Number three, work in progress, tech, entity movement. So Colin is continuing his work on entity movement. When this is finished, this will let our BPOs, such as torches and other items, behave like rubble with the rest of the building pieces. Obviously, if you've been in the test, you've seen that the BPOs do not work that way yet. Of course they will. Number four, work in progress, tech, scenario scripting. So why are we doing this? Well, for obvious reasons. We want to make running these scenarios as easy as possible, easy for us to make some changes, to tweak, to do the things that we should do to get you folks in it and be able to give us the kind of data we need in terms of how the game is doing. So that's a good ad. Work in progress, or will be when it's finished. Work in progress, tech, ability prediction. So this is something I've talked about for weeks now. This is difficult stuff. Rob has been doing great work on it. He should be getting to the point soon where he's really, something wrong, Rex?
No, just making sure that I posted the announcement on Discord.
Oh, okay. He's about through, he says, the most difficult parts, which is great, because having predictability for projectiles is kind of important. Another work in progress, tech, the nav mesh. So that now that Lee has polygons being created in the nav mesh, he's hooking up the actual library and getting ready to really make the nav meshes and pathfinding work properly. As you folks who've been in tests, or frankly any MMO, know that that can be, has been, will be an issue in games until, we get it right. Number 7, work in progress, tech doors. So Mike D is wrapping up the bugs on the first functional pass of server-client animated collision for single actor case. Now what does that mean? It's really simple. It means that, hey, we can have a door, and the door can open, and the door can, we'll check collision properly, and the door can be closed, and it can, be fired on, and other things like that. So, we said doors, rams, Saturday Night Sieges. Work in progress, tech, collision-based effects. So Logan is continuing work, on collision-based effects. This week he made it so that different block destruction, particles, and sound effects will play depending on the type of block being destroyed. So once again, if you've been in our tests, you've seen an epic number of blocks being destroyed actually quite well by the engine. One of the things it didn't do yet, but is going to do now when this is finished, is have different sound and particle effects attached. So when you destroy a wooden block or you damage a wooden block as opposed to a stone block, different things can happen. Another work in progress, tech, siege items. So Spidey continued his work on multiple interaction points for siege engines using battering rams as the initial test case. So what does this mean? Obviously it means that once this is done, we can have multiple people working together on various types of siege engines. So whether it's helping to move a ram, whether it's moving a siege tower, whether it's doing other things, this work has to be done, and it's coming along really well. As we said a couple weeks ago, Andrew and I were driving a ram together using Xbox controllers on the PC. So how fun is that? And no, you will not be required to have them for the game. Number 10, work in progress, tech abilities. So Anthony has code in review that adds necessary functionality, allowing us to sort potential targets based on a metric. An example would be an ability that heals the 5 lowest, yes, I know, hydrate, lowest health people nearby. Could have been worded a little better, but hey, it's just the first pass of this. Anthony also tightened up melee hitboxes for both slashes and stabs, so you don't hit the guy off to your far left. Unless, of course, you were actually meaning to do that. Number 11, work in progress, tech support classes. So Anthony also wrapped up 80% of the Minstrel components, which include shared components for all supports this week. He will be transitioning to the Dark Fool once he wraps up work on the Minstrel game. Who knew we would actually get to make one? Number 12, art, siege engines, corpse chuckers. I just love saying that, corpse chuckers. No, we need cow corpse chuckers. How much cow could a corpse chucker chuck if a corpse chucker could chuck cows?
We're going to find out.
I just made that up. And I actually said it without fumbling. Dion finished the last of the 3 models and has cleaned them up and handed them off to Joe for rigging and animation. So, this is a good line. Joe will have a day where he says, "Honey, today I rigged and animated a dead cow we're going to throw with a siege engine." Can't wait. Number 13, work in progress on battering rams. With concept art approved, Dion has begun working on the Arthurian version and is already making quick progress on the model. The goal is to knock this out quickly so we can get it in ASAP. Number 14, art, FSX, Wave Weaver. So DB has completed all the Wave Weaver ability sounds. This was the last but not the least of the mage classes to get the sounds. So, hey, all mage classes, you got your sounds. At least starting sounds. Art, animations. The animations for many of our one-handed weapons have been updated to the 2.0 format. This has allowed us to reintroduce a plethora. Ooh, nice word. We don't use that enough. Plethora. Of previously created one-handed weapons for players to craft and use. So we've got over 40 of those in total. Number 16, work in progress, art, animations, various. You know, every game needs a various. What can you do without one? No, Sandra completed the retarget of her one-handed mace animations to the Lucapan and is moving to finish the bow animation sets. Scott completed several weapons permutations, supporting one-handed weapon equipped and the other hand empty. Number 17, work in progress, mage outfits. Tyler completed the last outfit's LODs, audited all the others, and began the setup process for use in the game. Lotting, of course, is the reduction of what you see on the model the further it goes away, the reduction in detail. Number 18, work in progress, the Sneaking Scorpion, which is a great name for a pub. For those of you who bought the in package, you may want to think about that one. It's kind of a good one. John, quick as ever. Ooh, it says quick as ever. Is always done sculpting this nightmarish creature, previously shown in concept form for initial use as a model in the Depths board game. Perhaps you might encounter this creature within the real Depths. I think that's a given. Number 19, work in progress, art, VFX, ability component combinations. So Mike spent much of this week making sure abilities created through the ability builder had something reasonable for their VFX. He will next work on the new Magic Mortar and Corpse Chucker abilities. All game stuff. So nice. Work in progress, concept doors. Our first use case for doors will be the large-scale doors in the Cherry Keep walls. So Travail doors, big doors, are coming. Not only will these be beautiful additions to the scenario, they will also let us begin testing the supporting tech. And obviously, since we want to have real sieges, where you have to actually knock down parts of the building and all the doors, we kind of needed that. So, yeah, a really productive week. A lot of good stuff got done. A lot of good stuff is on the way. And we survived so far, going from Visual Studio 2015 to 2019. So, you know, lots of mixed emotions with that, but it had to be done, and better now than later, because we won't have to worry about this again, you know, before launch, which is great, which is also why we didn't go to 2017. So, look, that's it. Because of what we've been doing with the Visual Studio, we're not going to be having a test this weekend, but we are going to be gearing up for testing next week and for a test next weekend as well. So, Q&A time, folks.
Give us your questions. Adric Cortesia asks, when can we expect to have a real big map rather than scenarios?
Don't know if I want to give a date yet, because that will be wrong. I don't want to say soonish. We will have bigger maps, but not the great big map yet. Frankly, that's not important. Not in the short term.
Follow up, what phase of beta?
Okay. So certainly, obviously in beta 3, and probably before then as well. The key right now is obviously the scenarios, improving the look of the game, making the smaller, you know, islands look really good, and then we can move to the, you know, larger grouping of them. Because really, the way things are going, or the way things are laid out, literally, it's just, okay, we have to add another island. Hey, we have to add another island. So it's not that those are super easy to do. I don't want to minimize the amount of work done there, but that's not a known problem that we need to solve first. There are known things we really do want to solve first. Like, again, hey, making the islands look better. Dealing with a ton of housing on islands. Having lots of housing being destroyed at the same time on islands. So, you know, we have to get through all that before we go and build, you know, the bigger map.
Odilvik asks, so if all goes to plan, we should see CU launch this year. Is there a feeling in the office of being in the final stretch yet?
Oh God, no, because we're not in the final stretch. I'd love to say we are, but that wouldn't be true. The same thing that I've been saying for months is still true. We are absolutely hoping that we can get this done this year. That would be great. We're not counting on it. We've said we're not counting on it. That's what we're shooting for. We've been saying since the beginning of this year that it's a matter of making sure we can hire some more people, which we have been doing, which is great, and just getting a lot done. I the last thing I want to do is mislead anybody and say, hey, we're definitely going to launch this year. We want to. We're striving to. And not in the, oh, that's what everyone says. No, we're hiring for that. We're still hiring for it. We're looking at being smart with what we're putting in the game. It's not that we're cutting anything, because we haven't. But we're being smart about when you design a game or envision a game. You don't go into all the details right from the beginning, because you couldn't. So as we develop new systems or new mechanics, we have choices to make. Oh, what if we add this? What if we add this? And we need to continue to be smart about, no, that's not what we've promised. That doesn't need to be done yet. And, just doing things the right way for the remainder of the stretch. Will it be this year? Will it be next year? I can't imagine it wouldn't be next year. I just can't. Will it be this? I certainly hope so. And we're still, as I had an engineer interview yesterday, and I'm having another one tomorrow afternoon. We're all in on hiring more people, so we're trying.
The Darbs asks, I have been out of the loop a little. Has crafting taken a bigger role in testing, or still testing other tech?
Depends how long you've been out of the loop. Crafting has definitely taken crafting has definitely been more important in the last few months than it was, 4 months ago. Obviously, we have the new UI. Has it taken a big place in the testing? No, not yet. Not in the way of a crafting scenario, which we will have. So, are we moving forward with it? Yes. Are we making changes, additions to it? Yes. Has it taken a big role in testing yet? Not compared to the rest.
Bad Sonic asks, is there any plan to start updating Cube after the release of Camelot Unchained?
Oh, we'll be updating Cube before the release of Camelot Unchained. Cube is the building system for, CU. So we're going to continue to work on it. It just hasn't been as high of a priority because we need to get the other things done first. So, I can guarantee you, and I don't do that often, that we'll be working on it this year.
Real Life Gobbo asks, what is the significance of dragons in CU?
You know that. Kind of, sort of important. You go back to the, original stories about the breaking of the world. Dragons will play a role, not though in the traditional, hey, there's a dragon, let's go kill it and steal its stuff.
Daladin asks, can you guarantee that during nighttime we will not hear the Hollywood tree frog or the once in 18 years cicadas that are featured in basically all the movies?
I really hadn't thought about that, quite frankly, until you asked that, which is fantastic, because, I love getting questions I've never been asked before, especially when they're actually really good questions and relevant. You're right. When you think about it, and quite frankly, I hadn't thought about it, it is really something that's become kind of a trope. So, yeah, I think we should do better than that. And honestly, we just never discussed that. So, I think we should do better than that. Good question, man. Or not man. Person.
Daladin.
Hopefully person.
Dino asks.
Could be AI.
Could be. um, Dino asks, can we expect the ability to push siege ladders off of walls, or will it be stuck in place once put up?
Oh no, we want to be able to push it. The whole idea of building things the way well, not the whole idea, but one of the benefits of building things the way they are is that these are things that can be destroyed. They should be able to be pushed back by physics. So yeah, no, I want that. It shouldn't be, hey, there's a ladder there, and now it can't be moved, it can't be destroyed, and so people can just get up, assuming they can take the incoming fire. No, you should be able to push ladders off. You should be able to destroy things that the meanies are using to try to invade your poor, safe, quiet home and disturb your sleep at 4 a.m.
The Cranman asks, you said at the very end we won't be having any tests this weekend, but when will there be a later test for those of us that are night owls? I would love to help out and experience the beta more.
So one of the things that we're looking for an engineer to do, actually, is to come in and help us with some of the automation tools we need in terms of spinning up servers and recovering when the system can't recover, or restarting when the system can't recover from failures. Now, even though that doesn't happen very often, it does mean until we have that, then it means the only people that can really stay up and run a late night test have to know how to reboot the entire system or parts of it if something bad happens. So when we have that in a state that, hey, even a CEO can do it, then we can have some nighttime tests. Because frankly, if I could do that myself, I would be happy to run a late night test, because I'm a friggin' night owl anyway. I mean, as people here know, and you guys know, if you see my posting patterns, that I could be posting at 2 or 3 in the morning. So I'd be happy to do that.
Adric Cortesia wants to know, can we drown the new doors again?
Sadly, no. That was awesome. That was absolutely awesome.
I'm not entirely sure I understand this question. Zoof9 asks, is there a time estimate of when the game will be up at around 50% of the time on the testing servers?
Oh, I get that. Yeah, that would be much later in the process. Keep in mind that because we're using the cloud, keeping the servers up has a not insignificant cost. It's not like in the old days, 2001, where you had to buy the servers, and then once you bought them, you didn't have to worry about whether it was up 1 hour or 24 hours. With the cloud, unless you reserve servers ahead of time, you are paying for every minute that you're online. So we've been avoiding doing that for not only again because we need an engineer or Brian to always be around, but also because it just adds up to additional costs that we don't want to incur at this point. Just as we've been really good about not asking you folks for more money, and if we were going to run the tests longer, we would have to absolutely get more money to pay not only for the servers but for somebody else other than Brian or Tim to sign on and to control them if things go bad, and we really don't want to do that right now. Cloud is great, but it's certainly not cheap.
Denal626 asks, will strategic use of terrain being a big part of the Trebs and magic mortars, will they have a static launching arc?
Oh no, use of the terrain will be very helpful. Absolutely.
I feel like I have to ask this question because it's being asked in a way that I haven't seen before. Cal asks, I was born with a very rare condition that prevents me from Googling things. So my question is, what is the status of beta? Can anybody get in?
Beta. Well done. So look, yeah, a beta 1 tier gets you into all the beta 1 tests. We don't have lotteries. We don't have, hey, this is your number. If you have a beta 1 tier, when we do a beta 1 test, you're welcome to come in. Anyone who has a beta 1 tier. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. If you want more info, just ask. I don't want, I know that, lack of Google Foo and the gene to, control it is just, it's a terrible. And I know research is being done, money is being spent, but that won't help you in the short term. So I'm here for you. I'm absolutely here for you.
Vistage asks, Mark, how you doing? I'm glad I got to meet you at Mythic.
I'm doing great, thank you. I actually got a whole 4-day vacation just about a week ago, which was fantastic. Really needed that. So that was great. Unfortunately, I then, the day after I got back, had one of my cluster migraine headache things that I've been getting all the way back to Mythic, and that took me out for a few days, which kind of really sucked. It's why I actually have sunglasses in my pocket, which I'm not wearing because not going there. Because when I'm going outside, even now I still have a bit of that residual, sun sensitivity. So, yeah, other than that, I am doing great. And frankly, I am. The vacation was much needed. I need more. It would be nice. I haven't been, as you folks know, I tell you guys and gals every time I go, I haven't gone, on a cruise in 3 years. I haven't gone anywhere, for more than a couple days, and usually it's on a trip to the West Coast. So, it was good, and I feel great. I'm losing weight. I have a lot more to go, but yeah, all is good, man. Thank you for asking.
Odovic asks, will castles and towers have an abstract number of hard/mounting points, or will the number of siege be based off building design?
Building design. Look, you saw it in the Cherry Keep, right? If you build it so you can have enough room for a siege engine to operate, then the siege engine, can be placed there.
Shirasil asks, will there be a way to see if I hit a faraway target with sniping type magic other than visual? I don't want to just stand there after firing a bolt, talking loudly to myself, I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi,
Mark. Great question. The answer should be yes.
Ryan Petrie asks, I'm very interested in the ambiance of weather on the battlefield. Any plans for more weather options other than basic snow and rain?
Oh, absolutely. We're a game that's talked about veil storms. So, take weather, throw in veil storms, and gosh, raining cats and dogs is not just a saying. Wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, we just have to do it.
It would.
Especially the sound effects.
I don't know if I want to imagine
Hey,
that.
we're launching a cow and Donnie, cats.
I thought it was dead cows, though.
Well, they
or are they
well,
gonna go mooing and screaming through the air. Like in Twister, we have debris.
Exactly. That was great. The movie wasn't great, but
that
moment was awesome.
Dizzy Stream asks, is there an ETA for merch/alternate payment methods? Haven't heard much about it lately.
I know. This is one of the things that I've said far too many times. We need, another couple engineers to free up the kind of engineers that can do that. So yes, we want to be on Stripe. We need an alternative to PayPal. I just can't prioritize some additional payments, which would be nice, over making the game. So, when we can get some more help, then we can finish off the work on Stripe. And then we'll see about anyone else.
Undead Freddy says, sounds like we need an AWS admin. I'll send my resume.
Okay. Love to see it.
Wow, here's a blast from the past. The
Uh-oh.
Darbs says, newsletter number 9, today will be number 55. Newsletter number 9 spoke a little bit about pet classes not being autonomous. Has there been discussion on quantity versus quality while still not being FAF?
No discussions since then. Well, I don't want to say since then. No discussions recently about pet classes. You all know my opinion on them. I love pet classes. I think the Spirit Pets was a great idea. I think that we can do some interesting things with them. And if things go the way I'd like to, I certainly would like to expand pet classes. I love pet classes. And I think we can do interesting things, in a game like ours, which doesn't have the PvE leveling component. So we'll see. But I do think there's a bunch of interesting things we can do with them.
Lodoween asks, was Arthur's mother an old cat lady, or was that not an inherited trait?
Nice. Nice.
Lodowin also wants to know, when will you write or task Max to write the next part of Tales of the One True City?
Yeah, I can't task Max to write it because then I'd have to tell him what happens, and since I would have to do that, then why wouldn't I just write it myself? So yeah, I thought I'd be able to get back to writing, but I've been so consumed with all the things here, plus the stuff I've been doing on Renegade Space, the graphic novel, that I haven't had time. I will get time soon. I am almost done with any of the major work I have to do on a few things, and once I'm done with that, I want to get back to writing stuff for CU. And that's one of the things on my list. Some new races are also on my list as well as Max also. You have a race concept in that don't you?
A race concept and a becoming story concept for an already existing race.
Right.
Let's see. Mumblefish asks, and I don't know what this is, maybe you do. Would you ever use Doggerland and the time period as a fantasy setting, seeing as a big research drive to map what's beneath the sea is just beginning?
Possibly.
Undead Freddy asks, how expensive will siege equipment be? Will the primary limitation be space or the resources to build the equipment?
Well, in terms of space, we haven't committed to that yet. I know I'm making a graphic novel. Sorry, it's a joke. Space, Max, Renegade Space.
Oh, man. How did I not get that?
Yeah, I have no idea. So, in terms of being expensive, look, that's the sort of thing that we haven't talked about yet, at least in any kind of detail, because the cash component aspect is not all that important. What's important really is building time, transporting, that sort of stuff, and that's a much bigger focus. We expect that they won't be cheap, but the problem with getting them to the battlefields is not that you can't afford it. We've said from the beginning that the role of money in this game is less important than it was certainly in Warhammer and especially Dark Age. So it won't be just a matter of, hey, I can buy this, trebuchet. It'll be how the heck to get it to where it needs to go, because we're not doing the Treb in a box. that you can, just carry with you, other than for obviously for testing. And when we get into the next stage of beta, that may be removed, and you'll have to do it the right way.
Nanulak asks, any chance there will be a CU trinket store available soon?
Now, do you mean in-game or out of game?
Good
I
question.
think I know what you mean, but I want to be sure.
I'll look for a follow-up from Nanulak. Fat for Larry asks, an instanced arena, yes or no?
An instanced arena. So, depending on how you define arena, if a scenario counts as an arena, then yes, then we have an instanced, arena for testing. We also said we're going to have battlegrounds, or the equivalent for the starting for starting players in the game, so they can get used to the system. If you mean an instanced arena where players can challenge each other, from the same realm, we have not committed to that yet. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, ask a follow-up, please.
Nanulak clarifies, out-of-game merch was the question.
Yeah, in terms of out-of-game merch, that's another thing that we want to do, but once again, hey, Mark, do your impression of a broken record. Okay. We're not comfortable with selling a lot of things until we get further along. We have said that just a few times, and it's not because we don't want to. It's not that we're against money. Money is good, but I don't want to start selling trinkets or more T-shirts or anything else until we are strongly in beta. And by strongly in beta, I mean lifting the live streaming ban, the sieges, the scenarios are back, and fun.
Dino has a specific air question. Will we be able to have fire mages light the cow on fire while it's in the air, so it has additional effects when it lands?
In theory, the answer is yes, because that is part of air. Whether we will have that or not, we'll just have to see. I mean, it would be utterly fantastic if we could. That went over his head, too. He's just not.
I was answering a question in chat.
I got it.
Thank you.
Mumblefish asks, could there be a non-instanced player-made arena?
Yes.
Tvermod asks, can you make some specific suggestions for newly logged on players?
Sure. Read the beta manual, please. Please. Participate in the next stress test if you haven't. They're a sight to see. There's nothing like a 9.4 million block building being destroyed real time when you're surrounded by, 800, 1,000, players and NPCs. Or NPCs and players. Let me be clear about that. I don't want to emphasize players first, because that would give the impression that, hey, we have 1,000 players for all of our tests. Obviously, we don't. But because of the way we handle our NPCs and our arcs, yeah, it's kind of irrelevant. If we have 500 players and 500 NPCs, or 500 players, 500 arcs, it doesn't matter. But those two things, please read the beta manual. It'll save you some time and forum posts and frustration, at least some. Then we'll give you other frustration because the game's not, done yet, which is our fault, not yours. And being in a stress test where you see that going on is just friggin' cool. I mean, even if your machine can't quite handle it, seeing all that is just amazing. I mean, it really is amazing.
Drooged asks, what has been added recently to the code for test build that is both exciting and causing pain?
Pain is 2019, that's for damn sure. Exciting, the doors. Not because doors in and of themselves are particularly exciting, but the tech behind it is really helpful. And the fact is that once we have doors, then we can have a siege scenario where you actually have to use the trebs or abilities the way they're intended to be used. And sure, we could do that with walls, but doors just feels right. So I'm excited to see that.
Bumble asks a related question: are doors prefab objects, or can they be designed with cube?
Right now they're prefabs. Doesn't mean they'll always be that way, but as of now, we are doing all the doors.
Dizzy Stream asks, is the idea for spirit casters similar to theurgists from Deok?
Well, I'll leave that up to you folks to decide. Let me also say, I'm not trying to be cute or clever on this. We've been very clear right from the beginning that we are not cloning Dark Age. We are not trying to do anything like that. That's not the intent of this game. So will there be at times some similarities? Of course. Just like there will be similarities with other games. Just as with Dark Age, there were games that took things from that great game. Same with Warhammer. So, there'll be things that I certainly hope you folks like, who loved, or even just liked Dark Age. But there are other things that we're doing differently. So, we'll see what happens.
Here's a question I don't recall ever being asked before. Zyron Zephyr asks, so, will it be obvious when the enemy is transporting siege as opposed to, say, running caravans?
Sure, good question. Obvious, maybe. So, and we get into a kind of, complicated design question. So, if you're transporting trebs or siege towers or anything else that could be quite large, in theory, you need to have very large carriers, to do so. Now, if you have these large carriers, certainly they would be noticeable, and you go, oh, hey, that's, somebody who's carrying siege equipment, excuse me. On the other hand, people could use those carriers and have them empty, as a distraction. So, would it be obvious then? The answer would be, of course, no. So it's one of those questions where if I answer yes, oh yeah, it'll always be obvious, well then people will go, oh, but we disguise stuff, so it's not obvious. But would we like to have a way that you could actually see with inside, spy, which is like what the scouts are there for, to see what's inside the caravans? Absolutely. And if we can do that, then the answer to the question will always be yes, because even unless you have shields and things to protect it, of course. But hopefully that answers the question. But I would, in a perfect world, have right size wagons to carry, the bigger pieces of things.
Zyron says the answer is very informative. Ryan on the YouTube chat asks, how will you handle corpse lag after large battles? Will there be bodies everywhere, tombstones, or will they poof?
Yeah, so the nice thing about our engine, that shouldn't be a problem. And that's easy for me to say, you might ask, or you might say. But if you've been in our stress tests, you've seen that we can handle a whole lot of people not being corpses, people running around, whether, again, NPCs, orcs, or humanity. So I don't think corpse lag will be an issue. If it is an issue, sure, of course, we'd make the bodies go poof and put up, something that, wouldn't be as laggy. But again, if you've been in the stress test or want to ask any of the guys who or gals who've been in the stress test, they can tell you putting a whole lot of objects, animating or not, in the case of our NPCs who stand around if the numbers get too high, putting those on the screen, not a big deal for us. And frankly, if we did go to something like a graveyard, grave marker, however we would do it, gravestone, excuse me, that would be even easier. Putting the exact same object up that is the same, that, where it's not individualized or personalized, that doesn't stress the engine at all. And it sounds like a boast, but just ask anyone who's been in the stress tests, especially the running of the NPCs.
Adra Cortesia asks, do you have a list of items that must be in the game to call the game Beta 2? Can we get some items from that list, like back in the alpha days?
Yeah, we'll do that as we move through and get the scenarios up. Then we can really sit down as a team and go, okay, what's realistic? Do we have that now? No, not at all. Mainly because I wasn't worrying about it. Beta 2, the important thing about Beta 1 and why we weren't worrying about it is, because God knows what will go wrong. We hope nothing will, and nothing major will. But we want to be and need to be 100% sure. Beta 1 is all about making the game fun. And it's not about just tech, as you can see from the updates. It's about making a fun game and allowing you folks to play in it. What will determine when we go to Beta 2 is how well we do the job with Beta 1. And as you can see from the updates, so much more game stuff going in than ever before. And that process will accelerate. 10-minute warning, folks.
10-minute warning?
Yep.
Undead Freddy asks, what is the other than resistance type of the different magic damage types? Do they carry with them, other than resistance type, do different magic damage types carry with them any secondary effects? Dot damage, snares, etc.
That's a good question for Ben, because that's a very... I don't know exactly what he's put in terms of the resistances. I go over things, obviously, but I don't remember. So I don't want to answer that incorrectly.
Tavermod asks, I'll be a crafter mainly, and I aim to have more proper character for RVR. But is there any way for us squishies to be okay, not good, in RVR?
Oh, I've already said that. I've said that many times. So, if you define good as an RVR crafter by, hey, I can get into a fight and kick some serious, low-level butt, that's not going to happen. On the other hand, can you be very useful in that? Can a crafter be very useful in RVR combat? Absolutely. We've said that there will be things you can do with the siege weapons, things you can do in terms of building repair, things you can do in terms of pre-made, explosives and potions of that, of a type. Potion's probably not the right word. Well, let's just say explosives for now. Traps that you can use. So, if you view your role as an RVR crafter combatant in a traditional hack and slash, no, that's not what you're going to be good at. But if you look at, what you can do to help and be valuable, the answer is yes. And keep in mind, you, unlike other games, your crafter class isn't going to start with, the amount of health that makes you a one-shot kill. That's not the case at all in this game. So you can be useful as a crafter in RVR. We have said that. That isn't changing. But you can't be useful as somebody who's swinging a sword, who thinks that they can kill, a lot of people with that sword. You have to use your abilities. You have to use the things you make. And yes, you can be very useful and will be very useful when it comes to siege engines.
Collect asks, with custom user-named abilities, how do you handle the combat log? Will it just say something like, you were hit for 200 fire damage?
Yes, and more. So, because of the custom naming and the component system, it's a little more complicated than just that. But yes, you will be getting the information that you need through the combat log. It will talk about what damage type you were hit with, as well as potentially other things as well.
Kovac675 asks, what's your current staff headcount compared to when you launched Beta 1 last year?
Gosh, I got to remember exactly how many people we had last year. So we added four since we started beta, maybe 5. Lost 2. The one might come back. I think that's right. So plus a few, and hopefully plus more. We got an intern from last summer is back again. So he's already doing building of PCs and setting up for automated testing and doing stuff that we need. So he'll be with us all summer, and then we'll have another intern coming in next week who will join us and will be helping out with QA. So, and other things that the intern needs him, the senior intern needs him to do. And again, we're looking for more, engineers as well. I may be wrong. I think I may have missed one other person. I'm trying to remember when everyone came in, and we had people who came in right before then, so maybe off by one.
We've got 2 pretty good ending questions.
Okay,
one
then let's
about
use
the
them.
Company and one about the game. Which one do you want to?
Now let's do the game and then with the company.
All right.
Let's reverse them.
All right. Lodoween asks, what single aspect of the game do you think will most keep players logging in for years, and you can't pick the community or your team, although I can see there'll be a big part of it?
No, I agree with you. Those wouldn't be fair, wouldn't be fair answers. I'm hoping it's sieges. I'm hoping that the siege combat will be a lot of fun and challenging and not just throwing rocks at things. And if we can do a really good job with that, that will keep people coming in. I'm hoping that crafting as well, for the non-combatants, as well as for some of the people who want to get involved in RVR, that will, keep them in.
And Green Jericho asks, other than freedom of creativity, what are some of the benefits of being a small independent studio as opposed to being a part of a larger company?
There's a lot of things, but like even the creativity is a bit of a double-edged sword. Sometimes publishers, believe it or not, can be useful. They can keep rein on and check off the worst instincts of some designers and developers. In our case, we've been pretty good about that. We haven't been perfect, but as you folks have seen, we haven't added a lot of scope, certainly very little, if any, scope creep. So, that's not one. So what, at least in our case, so what would be some of the other benefits? I think the biggest benefit overall, besides creativity, is our ability to always be honest. Now, it doesn't mean that independent developers are always honest, because they're not. Because humanity, flawed. But in our case, because our current investors know me really well, they know that I'm going to do things the way I've always done things. And that is, I got no problems telling the truth. good and bad. And so that for me is one of the two biggest. The other biggest is when you work with a company, even though many of the people at the publishers are well intentioned, you have to deal with a lot of overhead and a lot of headaches. And I just suck at that. I couldn't kiss ass to save my life. I can't. I can't do that. I can't lie to somebody who's my boss, even if it means giving him or her bad news. And that was very difficult at EA. And again, not that everyone there was evil. They weren't. But it was difficult. So not having to deal with those things for me is great. In terms of the studio itself, creativity is the best one. When you deal with a corporate master, for the most part, you are going to get a lot of input. Now, some of the better ones allow the companies that they own or that they control to have that kind of creativity, this sort of freedom to take risks. But as we've seen from how many, rehashed versions of other games or sequels do we see in the industry? And it's not just the game industry, it's the same in film. How many times can Hollywood just go, hey, I've got this great idea. Let's put a woman in this role. Or, hey, I've got an idea. Let's put a man in this role. Or, hey, I've got an idea. Let's change this just a little bit. It'll be a whole new picture. It's like, guys, let's show some creativity. And so that's one of the things we can be. We can take risks. And that's one of the benefits of Kickstarter. That not only, obviously, us, but other studios have the chance to go to you folks and go, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Do you want to help support it? And that's a huge win for all of us as gamers. It means that there's going to be more failures. I mean, kickstarting a game is hard. Getting the money is hard. Then using it properly is hard. And the advantage of being owned by somebody like an EA or a Tencent is that they have, pretty limitless pocketbooks if they want to use it and if they believe in your project. So it's a trade-off. At times, would it have been easier for us to do what we're doing if we were owned by somebody? Absolutely. I could have said if we were, let's say we were an EA studio and they said, hey, we really believe in this, spend what you need to attract talent. Then that's a huge win, especially when you have some great companies out there, who can spend that money. And then you've got some huge companies out there who might not be great, but they're huge and they can spend whatever they need to. So it's an interesting time in the industry. We can be more creative than we've ever been before. That isn't what we're doing. When you look at the tools that are available, if you look at the great engines like Unreal, you look at other, Unity for mobile is a great engine. When you look at the other tools that are available for artists, we have more tools at our fingertips now than we ever had. I mean, there's no comparison to the ability of these tools to change the way games are made and to change the kind of games that are made. But we as an industry are failing to take advantage of them to their fullest, potential. We can be more creative. We can make more interesting games. We can do things that gamers will, I think, respond to. But we're failing to do that. And look, it's the same in Hollywood. Eventually, we all get the message. If enough films fail, if enough new TV shows fail, then Hollywood will make changes. Same in our industry. So hopefully that will happen. I would like to see even more creative games coming out. And one of the nice things of having the engines out there, and when I mention Unreal and Unity, I certainly don't in any way mean any disrespect to other engines that are for mobile. Like, I don't know if Coco is still a thing, but for a while it was. I assume it still is, as well as some other engines that have freed up a lot of independent developers to make interesting games and to take risks. So that's what I'd love to see more from the big publishers. It's something I actually discussed many times at EA, and that went nowhere, because they're the ones who can afford to take these bets, to take chances on things that are smaller, more interesting than just, hey, we're going to do Madden 99, or we're going to do this sequel, because they can afford to do that. And I'd love to see them doing it. I'd love to see them do it. I doubt that they will, but I'd love to see it. So how's that for an answer? I think that's a pretty good answer.
I think that was a great answer.
Yeah, not bad. All right, well, folks, so look, as always, thanks for your support. Thanks for your patience. As you can see from the 20 items on today's list, how many of them were geared to the game and not just geared to, hey, this is another tech thing. We've got more classes going in. We've got new siege weapons coming in. We've got doors coming in. We've got the new outfits. We've got so many things going on that I hope you're all excited about where we're at. Yeah, it's taken us too damn long. On the other hand, right now we can do things that other engines can't. And if you haven't, come in for this next stress test. See what I'm talking about. It's worth at least one stop by to see if your rig melts. Though realistically it won't, because unless you've got a really old video card, most of the testing has revealed that, as expected, our players are CPU bound, not GPU bound, and that won't melt your rig. At least it shouldn't. But it is worthwhile seeing. Next week, look forward to seeing you in the test. Look forward to what I expect will be another good week for us. And I think that's it. Have a great weekend. I'll see you all next week. And hopefully in a couple weeks, we'll actually have some artwork up on the website for the graphic novel Renegade Space. So, and just in case I always make this clear, but I want to make it clear again. No, we are not making a game of Renegade Space now. That is not in the plans. I don't even have a design, written for a game based on Renegade Space. This is a graphic novel that I've been talking about for like 3 or 4 years with you folks. It's one of the many that I've written, and when you see the artwork that Michelle and Elvin have done, it's pretty great. When I did that epic live gaming or live streaming session right before I left for the beach, I showed some of the artwork, and you folks seem to like it very much. Hopefully you'll love all of it, because they've done the kind of job we come to not even expect from Michelle. This is what she does. We don't even need to expect it. It's just done. And Elvin, who's been working with us since the beginning of the year, he's kicking ass on it. So if you're interested in graphic novels, especially if you're interested in sci-fi, I hope you enjoy it. And if this goes well, we can certainly talk to you folks about, hey, you want to see you graphic novel, because it isn't like we don't have a lot of stories. And whether it's Nawada, whether it's the Valkyries, whether it's the One True City, there's a lot of things that we can do that might be fun. So we'll see how this one goes. We'll see what the response is, and then we'll talk to you folks. And hey, if you like it, we can do it. Because the nice thing is, it doesn't really impact the development of CU. So it's all good. Again, that's it. Have a great weekend. I will catch you folks next week.
See you later.